All right, everybody, welcome back. So we continue our coverage of this morning's weather.
All right, we're joined right now by New York City Emergency Management Commissioner Zach Iscol. Good morning, Commissioner. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's get right to it. I see you're in the car. You've been driving around all morning, checking out areas of concern. So right now at 7:43, what is our main issue in the city?
Well, first off, thank you for having me on. Most importantly, I would urge anybody commuting today to take precautions, take it slow, use public transportation if you can. Right now we are looking at the winds are starting to die down. We're going to start to see the rain start to die down. The big concern going forward is potential for some coastal flooding later this morning at the high tide cycle in and around Jamaica Bay.
So how do you prepare those residents for something like that, right? As the storm kind of moves on out and that becomes an issue with high tide, how do you prepare?
Yeah. So first off, the first thing is I always just want to say thank you to all the incredible crews that have been in and out and about throughout the entire city this weekend preparing the city. So we have sanitation crews, DEP crews that are out there clearing catch basins. We have DEP crews that once we sort of get to the peak of high tide, they can get some pumps out there to start pumping water. And then there's a lot of communication. We've been in touch with local electeds, with community organizations. The city has handed out a lot of sort of flood barriers and some pumps and things that residents can use in their own homes. So those are all some of the things that we do to prepare residents, in particular in those areas that are prone to coastal flooding.
And tell me about your worry, as our meteorologist Chris Cimino here this morning has said that the temperatures will get really cold starting to tomorrow. So we have all this rain come in. The temperatures are like 60 degrees right now. What's our worry when you look at tomorrow, and how do we prepare for that?
Yeah. So, look, we're always trying to get ahead of the forecast. And so, when you get to particularly cold temperatures, and we're not seeing that on the forecast, there's a lot of things that we're concerned about, taking care of vulnerable New Yorkers. We can do things like Code Blues, where we put out additional social service teams to get homeless or other individuals off the streets. There's things that we do with Con Ed and utility companies to make sure that we are protecting the grid, that we're getting heat to residents around the city. There's things that we need to do to keep roadways and transportation networks open and running, right? So working with sanitation department to make sure that if there are potential for ice conditions or otherwise, that we're mitigating those things. So we really, one of the things that we do is days in advance, we start working with the National Weather Service to understand what the forecast is, what the risk and potential impacts are. And then collectively with all of our agency partners, we work together to mitigate those impacts and those potential threats and hazards to the public.
Commissioner, let me talk to you about flooding overall, right? Because we are heading into the tail end of this. So some of that floodwater is subsiding, which is good news. But there are certain areas that are just always prone to this kind of thing. West Side Highway, Bronx River Parkway, for example. Overnight, we saw those were shut down in parts because of flooding. Then you have the Verrazano Bridge closing because of high winds. How do you kind of deal with the fact that some of these areas are notorious for flooding? And why does it keep happening in those areas?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So we have very old infrastructure in the city. We are seeing, more significant storms and rainfall events that our infrastructure is just not able to keep up with. Our agency has now helped the city apply for over $600 million in grants to improve the infrastructure. But those things take a lot of time to implement and to improve. And in the meantime, there's a lot of work that goes into, one, keeping New Yorkers safe. That is always our number one priority, but also doing things to mitigate those floodings. And I think you're seeing that this morning, where we've actually had very few road closures and most of the roads are reopening. Now, again, I urge caution to folks that are driving into the city, to avoid even places with nuisance flooding can be dangerous.
Yeah, we have a reporter in Queens right now, Commissioner, for a downed tree on a house. At this hour, any injuries or that you're hearing about across the 5 boroughs?
I'm not, but it's a great point. One of the other groups is, so we have forestry crews, FDNY, NYPD, ESU, in addition to the parks, they have their forestry crews that go out and about. One of the things that we do to respond to downed trees, and we have just under about 3 dozen downed trees around the city right now, is we monitor 311 calls. There's a team that actually then sees do we have 12 down trees or do we have 12 calls all about the same tree? And then we dispatch crews out there. But right now, still early, but no reported significant impacts in terms of safety or injuries or life events like that.
If you're a New Yorker in a basement apartment, what's the first thing you should be doing if you see water coming in? Is it calling 311?
Not calling 311, but it's getting out of the apartment. And so one of the things that we really urge New Yorkers who live in basement apartments, make sure you have a way of egressing that apartment. Make sure that you subscribe to our notification system for basement apartments. You can sign up at nyc.gov/notify. You can download the app. You can sign up by calling 311. It's available in 14 languages, including American Sign Language. But it's really important that you have a plan to get to higher ground, and a plan that does not put you out into dangerous flooded streets or roadways. And so,
Understood.
getting to higher ground within the building or elsewhere.
All right, Commissioner, you're busy. Thank you for your time this morning, and keep us posted if anything changes, okay?
Always great to be with you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
All right.